For this time, I'd like to introduce our program. As Rotarians, we all know that Rotary is not scared of big issues and addressing big issues. In 1985, Rotary launched Polio Plus for the purpose of eradicating the world of polio. At the end of the 1980s, these numbers just are astounding to me, but more than 350,000 children were paralyzed by polio every year. That's in the 80s, in the late 80s. Today, Rotary and its partners have reduced the incidence of polio by 99.9%. There are 19 million people in the world right now who would have otherwise be paralyzed from walking, and 1.5 million people who would otherwise have passed away from this disease. This is a great achievement. We should be proud of it, but we're not done yet. I'm happy to introduce our speaker, past Rotary International Director, J. David Roper. He will speak to us about Rotary's efforts to finally eradicate this disease. Director Roper is a well-known member of this club. He's a charter member, 1975, a past club president, and a past district governor. And in 2002 to 2004, he served on the Rotary International Board of Directors. He has served on numerous Rotary committees at the international level, most recently in 2019, presiding over the Rotary's Council on Legislation as its vice chair. As his vocation, Judge Roper serves as a senior Superior Court judge. He received his undergraduate and law degrees from the University of Georgia. His participation with community groups and other service activities are too many to mention. It is my high privilege at this time to turn the program over to our friend, past Director David Roper.
Thank you, President Greg. And good afternoon, everyone. I really miss y'all. I wish I could be there. But as you know, I'm taking an immune suppressant drug because to try to make sure that nothing goes wrong with my new liver. And it makes me, in my opinion, a high risk, or if not high risk, very high risk. And in the last few weeks, the numbers have been going in the wrong direction for me. So Edna and I only go to medical appointments and to the grocery store. I hope that you will understand that, and I hope to be back with you as soon as I possibly can. I'm delighted to be able to report to you on Polio Plus. And at this time, I'm going to attempt to share my screen. If somebody will give me permission to do that.
Working on it. You should be good.
All right. If I can figure out which screen, I think it's this one. Let me make sure it's this one. It is. And so I was happy with the introductory video and comments and data about our polio effort. We are in we hope, the very ends of eradicating polio. That's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Polio is an ancient disease. Here you will see Egyptian hieroglyphics, which shows a man with a withered leg, obviously polio at that point in time. Probably some of the paralysis that's reported in the Bible is in fact polio. So this is polio. And this little bottle contains the miracle drug that cures, not cures, but prevents polio. I'm going to attempt to change my screen again. and walk through the calendar of Polio Plus, which gives us, I think I can tie all of the relevant data as we sort of see how the polio eradication effort progressed from really the decision to go forward in 1985, which was made by a president of Rotary International, Carlos Canseco, Dr. Carlos Canseco, who actually worked with Jonas Salk on a vaccine for measles in just a little before Salk's creation of the vaccine in 1955 for polio. And it also involved a president of Rotary International from the Philippines. You saw in the video clip that there was a massive effort in the early 80s to eradicate polio from the Philippines. And Matt Caparas, the president, was from the Philippines, and he, together with Dr. Canseco and many, many other people, made the decision in 1985, 1986 that Rotary should undertake the massive job of attempting to eradicate polio. Our partners at that point were the World Health Organization, the Panamanian Health Organization, and UNICEF. Later, when the Americas were polio-free, the Pan American Health Organization was no longer a partner, but the CDC came on also during this process. So we had 4 spearheading partners: the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the CDC, and Rotary. And without any one of those spearheading partners, our efforts would have not been nearly as successful as they have been. And you can imagine what Rotary's contribution was. We had people all over the free world who could participate and lead in the polio effort. As mentioned earlier, there in 1988, when we began, it was our Polio Plus year is 1987, 1988. Talk a little bit about that later. But in 1988, there were 350,000 cases a year. That's about 1,000 cases a day. And I'm speaking of paralysis cases, not other lesser forms of a polio case. These were paralysis cases. 25,000 deaths a year in 125 countries. There are 3 types of polio, very simply: type 1, type 2, and type 3. As we progressed through our efforts in polio, by 1994, the Americas were free of polio. Last case in the United States was, there were cases in 1979. We had been, I think we had been polio free for several years when some cases were imported from the Netherlands. And I won't go, there's no point in going any further than that, but our last cases were in 1979. In 1996, which would be, 8 years after we began the effort, there were 75,000 cases a year at that point in time in Africa. By 2000, the Western Pacific, from Australia to China, were polio free. In 2003, there were only 6 endemic countries, but to move to 2006, there were only 4 endemic countries, and those were the mighty countries of India, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, the ones that were the hardest. India, obviously the largest, the second largest country in the world. At that point in time, 1 billion people, more than that now. Nigeria, the largest, most populated country in Africa. Pakistan and Afghanistan, very, very difficult countries to reach because of the political unrest, the topography, war. So we'll talk a tad more as we go about that. A major event occurred in 2009 when the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation became one of the major funding partners for the Polio Plus effort. and they continue to be our major funding partner, and we even sort of consider them as the fifth spearheading partner today. In 2012, the miraculous happened. India was removed from the endemic list. Its last case was in 2011. And I want to tell you how some of this works. Polio was primarily eradicated through National Immunization Days, or NIDs. You've read about that in the magazine. You've seen pictures of NIDs. I'm going to show you how an NID works at the end of my presentation here this morning. But here is some astounding data that occurred in India. And let me say that when a national government makes polio or made polio a major national polio eradication, a major national priority, we had great success. India was one of those countries. India early on, the government of India realized that the government had to be majorly involved in the effort. And so here are some of the ways during National Immunization Days in polio, early 1996, in one day, India immunized 93 million children under the age of 3. But more incredible than that, in late 1996, December of 1996, January of 1997, 2 National Immunization Days. 117 million children were immunized on December 7, and 127 million children were immunized on January 18. This required 2.6 million healthcare workers and volunteers, and there were 650,000 vaccination posts nationwide. So this is how they repeated National Immunization Days time after time after time, and sent people out into the community to find children who had not been vaccinated. By 2014, India and Southeast Asia were polio-free. And at that time, we only had 3 countries left: Nigeria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. 2015, another major milestone. Type 2 polio, type 2 wild polio had been eradicated. The last case of type 2 polio was in 1999. Now, one of the important things about that is no longer would we have to immunize in our vials of polio vaccine, immunize against 3 types. We could concentrate on 2 types, which made the vaccine more potent for type 1 and type 3. Another miracle in 2016, the last cases in Nigeria in 2016, and then in 2019, type 1 polio was eradicated, the last case having been seen in 2012. Again, we were now no longer required to immunize against 2 types of polio. We could immunize against only type 3, and it made, again, the vaccine more potent. In 2020, actually just a few months ago in the summer, all 47 countries of polio were declared to be polio-free, leaving us only with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Having been to Nigeria and to Ghana, this is just incredible to have all of the countries in Africa to be polio-free. Today, so far this year, there have been 77 cases in Pakistan and 52 cases in Afghanistan. We are up against a really, really difficult fight in those 2 countries to reach all of the folks. We've had major setbacks with regard to war, political unrest, political disapproval of the vaccine, religious disapproval of the vaccine, but slowly we're making headway in those two countries. Now, this is not a lot of polio cases, but we've had many years during this effort where we only had 8, 10, or 15 cases in the world. But one of the reasons, as President Trump would say, that we have so many cases today is because we do such good, we know where the polio cases are and we have good surveillance. So we know that in years past, the surveillance has not been what we would like it to be. Let me move on because I want to get to some slides as I close my presentation. We've immunized over 3 billion countries and 3 billion children in 122 countries. 19 million children have been saved from paralysis based on the numbers that we know to have been true in 1988. And 1,500,000 lives have been saved as a result of our efforts. There have been some difficulties. Polio workers have been attacked or killed, many in Pakistan, over 100 that we know of polio workers or their drivers or other people related to the effort. In Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, we had workers to be killed. At one time, 9. At one time, there were 9. Another time, 2. I don't have an accurate number for the total number that were killed in Nigeria. And we've had workers attacked or killed in a number of other countries. And I'm going to just read a short paragraph from a 2018 article. It says, workers administering vaccines were attacked in 6 countries: Afghanistan, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Pakistan, Somalia, and Sudan, blocking children from getting polio immunizations. 6 vaccination workers were killed and 6 were injured. Funding in 1987, 1988, our Polio Plus year, and Bud Kolke, is he there today? I see people nodding yes. Bud Kolke was our president that year. He is our Polio Plus president. I served as an area coordinator. Rotary's target was $120 million. We raised $240 million. Bud and I were at the wonderful celebration and at the International Convention in Philadelphia, where we saw the numbers that were reported that year. To date, Rotarians have given $2.1 billion. Rotary has advocated with governments and raised another $10 billion. Between 88 and 18, over $17 billion have been contributed by public and private sectors. I've told you about the Gates Foundation in 2009. They gave us $355 million. It was really a match pledge. They wanted us to raise $200 million, but they gave us the money up front and allowed us to do it on goodwill. We did. We made our match early. Today, the Gates Foundation gives us $100 million every year if we raise $50 million, which we have done since they began that match. The total amount spent worldwide, we just don't know. Now I want to switch my screen, if I can, to, yes, wonderful. Edna and I have attended polio immunizations in India, Nigeria, and Ghana. In Ghana, I actually went as a representative of the foundation and Rotary International because they had eliminated polio there, but it had come back, and they sent me as a representative to watch them reinstate their polio efforts. So Edna and I were in Nigeria for a polio immunization day, major polio immunization day. We were in Lagos, not the capital, but the largest city in Nigeria, We had a little training session before we went out that day. Mia Farrow was there. She has been a major supporter of the polio effort. She adopted a child who has polio, and she was there at the kickoff of this event. The mamas brought their children in, and you got to say ah to get that baby to open his mouth. We drew the lucky straw because we were assigned to go to an island, not really an island, but a long peninsula. It's called Snake Island, across the water from Lagos to this long peninsula. So I'm telling you, it really was the best straw to draw out of the day's assignments. So we loaded up in boats with our Rotarian friends, and we headed across to Snake Island, where we visited and immunized in what is commonly referred to the poorest part of Nigeria. And we actually went door to door here immunizing children. I love this picture. I refer to it as Big Eyes, and that's Edna immunizing this child with 2 drops of polio vaccine. And then here I am, and another shot of me. And in this particular shot, I'm giving I'm not giving I'd already given the vaccine, and I'm now giving vitamin A. Vitamin A deficiency is a major problem in African countries and other places. And this was one of the plus efforts of Polio Plus, is to give vitamin A as we gave polio vaccine. Edna actually went in this hut and found this 3-week-old baby and brought mama and baby out, and that child is not going to have polio. These folks are fishermen, and they were cooking on the grill fish that day, and never got to taste that, but it was interesting. And here we are with the kids. They always love to have their pictures taken, and we're about to leave our friends here on Snake Island, and in our boats again to head up the water to another part of Snake Island, also actually directly on the ocean, fishermen there. The red flag indicates that it was too windy to go out that day. Different type of village than we saw earlier. We found that most of the kids here had recently been vaccinated. So we only, I think we only vaccinated a few, but they were very good hosts to us. And this guy was showing off his skills with the machete and the coconut, and made one for Edna so she could enjoy the juice. Really wasn't very good. They're not very good coconuts. And I've always read about people mending the nets, and we found a guy doing that. And some of our friends there that were watching what we were doing. The Nigerians really loved their drums. This is back on the mainland, and Edna was able to steal one of these drums away from one of the drummers, and she played with that all week, and she actually brought that home. We have that here. This was one of our guards. We had, every time we traveled on the mainland in these vans, we had armed guards, never had any problems, but would you want to meet up with that guy? And here are the others. Now this looks dangerous, but I put this photo in here to show you that after the problems that they had in Pakistan, armed guards now accompany the polio workers to make sure that they stay safe, and these are actually guards. This was what the world looked like in 1988. These were the countries in red that were polio endemic. This is what that world looks like today. Only Pakistan and Afghanistan. These children are holding up their little fingers. After we immunize children, we paint their little finger with indelible ink. That's so that if another group of polio workers comes through before that ink wears off, they know that they should not give those children another vaccination. We don't really know how many times these children in this picture were vaccinated. The target was 3 times. We wanted to vaccinate them 3 times. I've read even recent material that says 4 times. I'm sure some of these children were vaccinated 8 or 10 times. But we really don't know whether 1 vaccination is enough or 2 vaccinations is enough, or it takes 3. I suspect it's 1 or 2, but we don't have, as much as we know about polio, we don't really know the answer to that question. So back now to the end of the presentation and to our major focus now is to end polio now. We are indeed that close, as you saw those people holding up their fingers in the video. And what I want to do is plead with you, first, to give to the Rotary Foundation, and secondly, to make part of your donation designated for Polio Plus. I'm going to see if I can not be, let's see, stop share. Okay, I'll plead with you, as Edna and I do, we give half of our general fund giving to the foundation to Polio Plus. And our pledge to ourselves and to Rotary is that we're going to continue to do that until there is no polio. I know it's 1 o'clock, but I would be happy to answer 1 or 2 questions if you have one. I must have done a great job. Thank y'all, glad to do it. Enjoy talking about polio. By the way, tomorrow is World Polio Day. It's really not World Polio Day. It's World Polio Eradication Day, and I don't know why they can't get that right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, David, for the great presentation. In recognition of your talk today, the club will be making a small donation to Polio Plus, of course.
Thank you. Greg, may I mention one other thing?
Sure.
The boats that you saw that we were in, I made a pledge to buy 2 more boats. Those were for their the health service there, and I failed in that regard but my club raised funds several years ago and purchased 1 boat for them. And I wanted you to know that you did provide a boat that would be continued to be used in not only the polio effort, but to get to Snake Island and other locations for health services. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, again, World Polio Day is tomorrow. I noticed on YouTube there are some live streaming events that will be occurring, so I encourage you to go to YouTube to view those tomorrow. Thank you again, Director Roper, for your presentation. Cards, please sign for our members. Mask, please take. The great work of Blue Ridge, Baker Place Elementary. Golden Harvest food packing this weekend, and next week program will be the Better Business Bureau. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
ROTA